Welcome to the Voice of EMS, where I talk with awesome people and sometimes even give you my own opinions on what's going on in EMS. And today we're with Tiffany Powell-Jordan, because that's not confusing. I had Tiffany Powell and then Tiffany Jordan. It's a hyphen. She's that powerful. She has to have multiple names.
That's right.
And you are the founder and owner of Pinnacle EMS?
I am.
Why? And this is what I ask everybody who starts EMS service. Why would you be so crazy as to start a private ambulance service?
It is very crazy. But it's something that I'm very passionate about. I just love healthcare. I love seeing a tangible change that I make in not only the patients' lives, but also their families. So it's a very visible, tangible change. And
you see the good that you do every day.
I see the good, yeah.
So why not just serve at a good EMS service? Well, there are some out there.
Well, because I want to make more money. I'm quite honest. But, I mean, there are great ones out there. I worked at, I don't know if you've heard of Morningstar EMS. Shout out Morningstar EMS.
I don't know, maybe.
Williams. But I worked with him. I worked for Grady EMS. They're non-emergency side in the past. So I pulled a lot of great nuggets from those services. But
well, let's talk about where you came from. When did you get started in the field?
So back, I want to say it was 2012. So a little bit of background. So I used to work in corporate America. I used to do merchant processing sales. So my job every day, I work for U.S. Bank essentially, or their company that they own is called Elevon. So my job all day, I talk to business owners all day. And a lot of the time I would be like, well, what's the difference between me and them? And the difference was they believed in whatever their dreams were. They took a risk and they gave it their all, and they landed at least to the point of talking to me.
Did you find in all of your careers that you'd learn things and people would then turn to you to learn from you about those things?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I think that's the difference between, there's people out there that want to be, EMTs, medics, whatever, that always just want to be that level. And that's great.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. But I'm the same way. There's some of us out there that go, no, I learned it. Now I'm bored. I want to do something else. And did you ever you just get bored and have to keep learning?
Oh, yeah. And so that's what it was on my corporate job. It was a great career. My parents and the people, my friends around me were like, you want to do what? So after doing that for so long, I felt like I was hitting on my sales goals. I was in sales. Hitting on my sales goals, getting all the bonuses. I got the window seat. I'm like, okay, this is boring. And so I'm like, I need to embark on something new. And so I saved money. It wasn't enough, but I saved some money. I didn't know anything about ambulance or anything EMS. But I'm like, okay, I need to open up my time and my mind.
Okay.
So I did that. I wasn't married, didn't have any kids. So it was an easy, calculated risk that I took. And so I taught, dance class to kids, just freelancing. And so, but during that time, I had a friend that knew two guys that opened their own ambulance service, and they were firemen, and I think they were in an audit or something like that. And so she was like, they didn't know how to get through the audit. They didn't know anything about office. They just knew patient care.
How to run the calls, right? Yeah.
And so she was like, hey, can you help them out? You know office stuff. And so
paper's good.
I know papers. So I did. And it just turned into eventually, I worked part-time for them. Then it turned into, can you work full-time? Then it turned into, can you run our business? And we go and have fun and we don't want to check in. So that was a blessing because it just,
you got paid to learn.
Yeah, I did. And that's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
They let me run everything. I could do hiring, firing, training. I would be able to go out and do marketing. Of course, I did all the logistics, disciplining. It was just, I got.
Without having the full weight of the liability and the worry and everything else.
Exactly. So,
now, do they still work on the trucks, or is it one of those where
no.
hey, we're good, the company's golden,
yeah,
we're going to go play golf?
Basically.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, it was exciting though. I like challenge. I love the fact that I wasn't just stuck in a cubicle for 8 hours. And then I could see tangible change even then, just with, I felt like I took ownership in the business because I felt like it was my baby back then. I didn't have any.
That's the best way to be, right?
Yeah. And so, I could see the tangible change. And so I have a healthcare administration background. So I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is what I went to school for. And so, eventually it just didn't work out. And I told my parents that I'm like, I want to own a company like that. I know I can do it. I clearly know I can do it.
You proved yourself,
right.
Yeah.
And so, time passed. My stepfather is a retired fire. I don't know what his level was, but he was way up there in Florida. And so, he was like, well, we have your back, but you need to go to EMT school. And so I'm like, okay, that's fine. Because back then,
I was going to ask about that.
Back then I wasn't an EMT, so I could never get on the truck. I would only, do what, with QA and reports, I didn't know what I was QAing grammar, for lack of better terms, or QAing the flow of things, but I didn't know really what made sense.
They didn't give you a template
no.
of what needed to be in there.
No. So, I thought it was, it only made sense to go to EMT school. And that way I didn't have to rely on anybody else's knowledge to tell me, how to do things properly. So went to Grady EMS Academy.
You lit up with that. You like that school?
I love Grady. I had a really awesome instructor. His name is Brett. Hey, Brett Anderson. He recently was here. He did a refresher course for some of my EMTs and my medics. So he's just awesome. He's a very hands-on, very real just teacher. He knows how to. He's very smart. Book smart wise, so he can break it all down, all the stuff. Yeah, he breaks it down well, but he also he really paints a good picture and just lays out the hands-on side really well. And I'm a hands-on learner, and so it was just a really good balance between books and hands-on. We started with hands-on probably week 1. So
good.
Yeah. So learned a lot there. And I love my trauma clinicals. I thought to myself, I'm like, man, if I would have, because back then I thought I was scared of blood. I don't know.
You just had that thought. Somebody told you you're scared, so you're scared. All right.
I don't know how I ended up here, but so it was never in my mind to do anything clinical. I'm always I like healthcare, so I'll do the administrative stuff. But now I'm like, man, I should have been a trauma nurse, at Grady, because there's never a dull moment, and it's you just have to be ready and on it. And
it's less herding cats, but because that's what we do, right? Running companies, It feels like we're herding cats sometimes, but yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was trauma nursing and EMS will keep you busy.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I went to EMT school, and then I began this process, which was a very long and
so when did you start the process?
Painstaking process. Back in August of 2016, I would say. In terms of paperwork, getting all the paperwork filed with the state, finding my first 1997 Ford E450. I don't even know how I got through.
Wow.
With that, but
duct tape and good luck.
Oh yeah, and a whole lot of wishing and hoping and praying, because wow. But yeah, I started that process. So I didn't become. Well, I got I think my state license in January maybe of 2017, but then the Medicare process back then was much longer. So I think it took about 6 months for Medicare to approve me, and I didn't want to take the chance of starting prior to, because I've heard so many horror stories of, you think it's going to take 3 months, but it takes 9. And now you have no capital. And
because you've been putting out the money to run the calls, and they're not, they will back pay you, but you gotta, if you get your numbers.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I know I don't want to do that. So I just waited. I paid my bills, which was back then, it was just my truck insurance and I think it was my office space and maybe a couple other small little bills. But whoa, that was I don't know how I got through. I don't know how I got through it. But so we became operational, I want to say August 2017. August 4th to be exact.
Wow, that's a date to remember.
Yes, I remember that date. So
for sure.
Yeah, so that was a long-winded background. But
no, that's good. It shows a path. I learned, we always assume, so I came up straight through EMS, like the firefighters that ran the company did. And you think, well, you have, because to get on the truck, you have to be an EMT, and then you have to do this, you have to do all this stuff. You think you'd have to be that to own a company, but you don't.
You don't.
I learned a few years ago when I was teaching EMT school, we had a guy come in, and he really wanted it, and he was struggling. He was working hard, but he really wanted it. We could tell he was distracted and stressed, and it turned out he was running an ambulance. Like, he started his own non-emergency ambulance company, was running it, and then went to EMT school so that he could figure things out and possibly even work on the truck. And it is good, but it was hard.
I'm sure.
And because doing school at the same time as trying to keep that company going, as you know, and we'll talk about running a company.
Yeah, I don't know how you do it.
We both have our phones on silent, and I put my watch on silent in the middle of all this because I forgot to put my watch on silent.
I forgot to put mine on.
You're right, because we have to be in touch with people, but when you turn it off, it's almost like, hear that? Yeah, there's nothing.
I know.
It's great.
It's great.
That moment that nobody needs anything from me for a minute. It's what's one of the biggest lessons you've learned from, you came up through sales and you had to, actually, we're going to put a pin in that. Why did you go to school for healthcare administration? You want to be a secretary at a hospital?
I guess. I don't know. I think back then, I don't know. If I'm quite honest, I started out and I'm like, I want to be a physical therapist. But I was a great student in the end, but my freshman year, I was doing everything else but going to school. And so, I didn't do well in anatomy and physiology. And so I had to choose another track. And so, I looked at the job outlook of, I don't know, just what I could do with the health admin degree. And there seemed to be a lot of things that I could do. A lot of it was, a hospital administrator, which I know I didn't want to go that high up, honestly. But nursing home administrator, or just even doctor's office administrator. I like stuff like that. I thought I did back then. But, it just had a good job outlook. And
so you did your research on what you could make a career at.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
Yeah. But then I graduated in 2007. And that's when the economy started taking a turn for the worse. There were no jobs.
One of the first times, in our lifetime, one of the first times it took a turn for the worse.
So I couldn't find any work. And then I learned I guess in that process that, okay, I didn't have any billing coding certification. I didn't know that should have been coupled with a degree because they're like, okay, what do you bring to the table? Do you do this?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I just have a bachelor's degree. And I thought that was good enough. But I was a server in college. I would be making way more as a server than I was with the jobs that were offered to me.
Of course, that's to say he was working as an EMT.
Yeah. So I'm like, no,
Sometimes.
This isn't it. This isn't it. And so, I guess I just kind of fell into it. But hey, here I am. It worked out.
So what's one of the biggest lessons you've learned coming through that changed you as a person?
That changed me as a person? There's so many. But I would say just as it relates to this industry and owning a company, that people, I want to say something positive first.
Fair enough.
Well, the positive is that, if you treat people good, like EMT wise, your employees, they usually, if you scratch their back and you show that, you care about them outside of just doing this work, basically, and running these calls, if you show that you care for them outside of that, like in their personal lives, and, you know, that you want to see them excel at whatever their other goals are, even if it doesn't have anything to do with them working here, I think that goes a long way, and they scratch your back too.
You mean treating human beings like human beings does some good in the world?
It does. For the
I don't understand
part.
that concept.
Now for the negative, you know, people, I'm trying to put my words together properly. I see why we need police officers. People need direction. They need rules. You can't assume that, you just can't assume. You have to write it all out, make it very clear and plain. You have to be very clear, and you have to follow through with the things that you say you're going to do in terms of not only discipline, but also with rewarding. So people really respond well to rules that are enforced, good and bad.
Yeah, it's so there's a psychological theory. I don't know where it came from. I mean, it's a real one. I don't remember where I picked it up, but the study was done with preschool kids. And if you let them out in the yard with no fence, they stayed right there. They didn't do anything. As soon as you put up the fence, they played, did everything. And
Interesting.
I have found personally too that I expect you to be an adult, and I'm giving you all this stuff. I'm providing interest in your life. I'm providing, you know, great pay. I'm providing good equipment. I'm providing a solid job, a good atmosphere, similar to what you have here with how you care about people, and they know they're valued as people. And then to turn around and have somebody just do something really, really dumb. It's like,
what?
Why am I having to tell you as an adult?
Yeah, that part.
Don't do that. And it's been, now I understand, even though I was always that go-getter. Now, don't get me wrong. I needed to get knocked back in place a bunch of times. I got reprimanded more than once. And there was a time in my career where I'd go into my commander's office and just check in every day. It's like, if I'm not in your office, I'm not doing my job right. And they're like, please stop that. Please just do the medicine better and the mouth less. So I definitely made my own mistakes. But I was always that go-getter. I was always like, okay, you tell me this is the rules of the game. I'm going to figure out how to beat the game.
Right, absolutely.
And a lot of people don't like that.
And you know what? I'm like, I heard something the other day, and someone was like, everybody wants to be a boss or in charge or, you know, just an entrepreneur in their own right. But he was like, but they have never showed that they can be a good follower or a good, you know, employee. And so I would think that for the most part, I've always just been someone that I'm a go-getter. Like, you tell me one time, I make a mistake. Like, I want to know what I did wrong, and I set out to make sure that I don't make the same mistake. You want that correction,
because you can't change if you don't get correction.
Absolutely. And I just love learning. I love trying to find a way to make it work better. So I've always been like that. I'm competitive, like in sales. If I wasn't number one, I better have been number two. I just have always been like that. But I find that a lot of people are not, and which is okay. But with that, I can't assume that they're gonna process things the same way that my mind does. And so I'm just learning, even still, like, I have to break everything down. I have to have a system and a protocol and just everything has to be broken down.
You seem like the kind of person who sees the world like I do, where it's like, okay, I'm going to go do this thing. We'll figure out how to do this thing. Yeah. And it's about doing. It's about the actions, about the job. Can I do the job? What was one of the first things, because EMS is definitely notorious for, one, being siloed and sheltered and old school. That's not how we do it. And why? This makes sense. We don't do any social media. Any? I get why you don't want your driver out there videoing while he's driving, which is against the law. Right? We didn't have this. This is sort of from another department somewhere else. But filming while they're driving, which is against the law, and just caustically going after people. This is why we're always behind on calls. And I know why you don't want that social media, but something. This is a social world, and
absolutely.
So what was as you came up thinking the way of this makes sense, what was the one thing not one, but I'm sure one of many things that you slammed your head in the wall and go, wait, what? What? That's a thing? Why?
You're saying, okay, rephrase your
So you came up through working for somebody else.
Yeah.
And learning the EMS industry in the company. What was one thing you go, this makes sense, and maybe the firefighters did it, or the employees did it, or later on, someone went, no. And you're like, wait, why? Why is that even a thing?
I'm trying to think. I'm sure there are many. I'm trying to recall.
And it's good. So you focus on the positives that you've done in life, and you kind of let go of the worst moments.
I'm trying to.
I'll give you an example that I came across. I worked at Jasper County EMS many, many years ago, and I lived in Jasper County. And they paid really low. I was a paramedic making $10 an hour.
Oh, wow.
And it was rough. I'd already filed my first bankruptcy. I ended up filing 2 in my career, and went to work for them. And they had 2 ambulances and 2 stations. And they had a habit, if somebody didn't come in, they just shut a truck down.
Oh.
And it'd just be the central truck running. And I said, no, I live here, and we have to hold a standard of, we got to know who we are.
Yes.
Right? We're not the throwaway EMS. We're not we were the second job for a lot of people, but not the side hustle, if you will.
Right.
We're not the side chick. We're worth being with if you're going to be here. And we just have people, I'm not coming in today. And they shut down a truck. And I finally made a stand and said, no. And I worked broken up. I worked like 72 hours straight. I got a few hours sleep at home and a shower and came back. I was like, I'm not letting you shut this truck down.
Wow.
So because this is not a thing. Why the county's paying for 2 trucks?
Right.
We get
Why
2 trucks.
shouldn't 2 trucks be up all the time?
You know?
Yeah. I'm recalling a time when I worked for Grady. So I worked in their non-emergency dispatch center, and then I worked on their wheelchair vans for a time being, because they wouldn't let they wouldn't let basics work on the ambulance. Back then they wouldn't, but of course now they do.
Well, now they have to.
They have to.
The market needs.
Yeah,
why they have
absolutely.
To. There's no law saying they have to, but yeah.
But so Grady also had a lot of contracts, or they do a lot of calls in South Georgia as well. And so they would have a NIC. I think this was in Sumter County, maybe Albany area. But they would have, I think they might have had, I could be very wrong, maybe 1 or 2 trucks. But when I say run, they would, so they had a 24-hour crew, and then they probably had like a 12-hour crew that would come in too. But so 24-hour crew, usually that's a crew that you kind of like let take a break, and then you send them somewhere.
Because they're going to be there all night.
Right.
Type of deal, yeah.
But it was just, the demand was so high. So they used to have a lot of 1013 calls come from down there, and they would need to come to, I think maybe Anchor here or wherever, or they might have had a lot of interfacility transports.
Were they also the 911 service?
They were.
Wow, that's a tough balance.
It was horrible. And so when I say they would run them, they would, I guess they were only budgeted to have maybe those 2 trucks. And so they would go Albany to Atlanta. Like, but same crew though.
That's like a 2 or 3 hour
like
ride one way.
Yeah. It would be the same crew back to back to back to back to back to back.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, somebody's gonna get into an accident, burnout. And it's just not. You can't expect that. Like, so, but I guess that was something that was kind of, no, this is how we do it. This is kind of the budget for it, and so this is. Calls need to go out, and it's just a corporate thing at that point. Even my boss, he's just following the orders of his upper level.
Yeah.
And so,
yep.
It's a corporate thing. And so I'm just like, gosh, somebody's going to get hurt.
And it feels like with anybody, not just Grady, with anybody, and this is why we do want EMS, is to connect the top end to the bottom. It feels like there's a huge disconnect somewhere in that middle of why is this run this way? Why is it doing this way? And even on the outside, I mean, those of us, I've been in the field for 23 years. And when I started, Grady was kind of the epitome. You had to be a medic in the field for 2 years.
Oh, wow.
Typically a high call volume service. And they ran double medic trucks.
Wow.
That was it. And so that was kind of the goal to achieve. And And it's changed a lot since 20 years ago.
Big time.
But, you know, in the last couple of years, those of us on the outside look at Grady go, you go in and you promise the world and you deliver this because you say you'll do it for nothing. And is that really good for the county? Now, that's not all. See, that's a disconnect, too. I don't know all the ins and outs of it. But from the outside, right? And that's what we're trying to do with the connections. But that, I get you, it doesn't make sense. Is you have to, something I've been talking about with my company, some of the people are like, man, we want to be the biggest service in Georgia. I'm like, they asked me, what do you want? I said, I want to serve the patients the best I can every day in the clinics and always grow. I mean, but I don't have a goal of growth every year. I have are we growing every month? Are we picking up from what we're losing? And are we doing the best job we can?
Absolutely.
And if we do spread out to we're talking about going to mid-Georgia now. If we do that, that has to be run differently. It can't be run from one. I mean, there's always going to be one head, but it has to break down. And I was fortunate enough to sit in a meeting with Microsoft many years ago when I did AV Hustle. All the time. They brought their big corporate conference to Atlanta. And I was in the room with the global managers for, so Germany had its own president of Microsoft that answered up, and the president, I forget his name now, but I knew his name then. And I was like, that's so-and-so.
Wow.
And I was like, dude, because I play Xbox and all that stuff. I was like, man, you're my hero. But they were launching what we know now as the Surface Pros.
Gotcha.
But it's interesting to watch how the president of Microsoft came in and they ran the world. And this room of 30 some odd people they were the president of their areas and had so many people underneath them. Like, and that's how you do it, because Germany is going to run different and U.S. had 3 or 4 people sectioned out. So Germany's going to work different than the 3 people in the U.S. and different than Mexico or India or wherever else. And that's how you do it.
Right. I don't think anything is cookie cutter. Just because, I mean, even in middle Georgia, I'm sure, I don't know if you guys will offer the same pay, maybe not. The pay is different. And like, even in Columbus, I'm hearing, you know, I think they might pay their EMTs $12 maybe an hour. And even if you have experience, and they might pay their medics maybe 16. Maybe. I don't know. This is what I'm hearing. I don't know if that's true. But
I mean, that sounds about right.
Yeah. So, so even with, not that the logistics or anything like that would change per se.
Right.
But just, maybe you can, run fewer calls and make more money, or, you know, it just versus.
So let me ask you as a business owner, in theory, in general, how do you run your business? Do you just set a budget and try to run to it? Do you know your cost factors? How do you determine whether you're going to grow or not?
So I would say I focus, and this is probably, this is something I'm still really like learning, but my main focus is quality over quantity. Which I know is not necessarily because, you know, we get paid less, like 30% less now than we did when I started back, in 2017, which is a huge cut, from Medicare.
You're talking about from Medicare.
Yeah, from Medicare. And so, it is a challenge to focus on quality, because quality to me equals I'm being on time. All the time, or that's my goal, to be on time all the time. So if that's my goal, to be on time all the time, that means when I'm offered patients that I know truly I could take them, but I know they're going to be late. Maybe the person behind them is going to be late. Yeah. And so I build my company on timeliness. Like, that's how I pretty much.
Well, that's what I'm trying to get to. It's not the detailed time on this, because you have your values and you're sticking to your values. And you say no to things that are going to take you away from your values.
Correct.
That's the same with how I run my company, is very much of, I know what it costs to run the truck.
Right.
I'm the same way. I want to be able to be on time every time and give the best service. And I do try to factor in that we don't want to ever say no if we can help it. Right. So can I stockpile savings and have a truck on the ready? You know, can I build on those relationships? Can I afford to run 2 patients on a truck for a little while until we build it versus anything else. And always, honestly, my value, your core value, I'm sure you have multiple core values. Timeliness was one of them. Honesty and transparency is for me. It's like, I will tell my clinic flat out, this is what's going on. And it's human to human, not business to business, human to human.
Yes, absolutely.
So when you talk about pay, well, one, I fully believe you need to separate 911 and non-emergency.
Oh, yeah.
That to me has proven to be a losing game.
Yeah.
Right.
I haven't even,
I came up through National, it did it, Grady's doing it. And the theory behind it is, we can do 911 for less because we're going to take these emergency and non-emergency transports and do the billing on them. And in theory, even with Grady, they might even come to Grady Hospital, which even then bills more. But it doesn't really play that way because there's a disservice done somewhere.
Right.
So that's me. You're going to do what you're going to do.
Right.
Right. And then I'm going to pay the same because it's not because you said Sumter County. We're not, I don't know if we're ever going to go there. We're not in Sumter County. But if I come and service hospitals or dialysis clinics in those areas, I felt like making the balance across the board is what mattered to the company.
Absolutely. I agree with that. That's why I'm like, I don't know if you would or not. But, so yeah, like how I make my decisions, I focus on quality. And then of course, like when I'm building, on another truck, worst case scenario, I built my business to where I always have like an operations person on standby. I mean, he's doing other productive things. And I also have all my, people in the office basically dispatch whoever, they're EMTs as well. So if I have to build, well, guess who's hopping on the truck?
Exactly.
They're hopping on, and then I grow from there. So I need to first make sure it's going to stick, make sure it makes sense. And once it does, then I can begin to staff for it. And then.
But you were smart. You looked ahead because the office is right behind the camera. So when I point at the camera, I point at her office right there. You have your office. That's where you need to be, or work from home, or however. So you're one of the last people to get on the truck.
Right.
But you still get on.
Oh yeah.
Fairly regularly.
Yeah. So, but basically they are my kind of my barrier, between that. But I mean, I don't mind getting on. Sometimes it's a great thing because I get to see, at first I get to talk to my patients, their families, just in that setting, on the truck setting. And then also if there are any barriers or just challenges, I'm like, like sometimes I hear my staff say such and such is, heavier, or these steps, or something that maybe a ramp is kind of becoming not as sturdy as it was in its giving. And so I hear that, but then, okay, now let me go and do it with them. And I'm like, they weren't lying. So I don't mind getting on the truck. And I mean, if it's for growth, I'll absolutely, but that's kind of, I always focus on quality first. I'm always, definitely want to grow, but I don't know if you want to go there, but I'm like,
let's go.
I have found, now I'm not like a 12 truck company. I don't know if I want to be, but I don't know if I want to be.
See, there you go.
That's where I'm going.
I got you. Okay. All right.
It's not even a feeling. It is actual factual, that I made more money take home for myself as a 2-truck company. I'm only I have 6 trucks right now. I usually run 5 on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. TTS is slow. A lot of the clinics in my service area
it seems to be the case across the board.
A lot of clinics are not open on Tuesday, Thursday.
Unless it's a bigger city.
Yeah. And so I only, like right now I'm running like 3 to 4 maybe. And so I made more money. So
you did better. You profits wise, you did better as a 2-truck company than a 5 or 6 truck company.
Yeah. So I don't know if I'm so much focused on growth. I'm focused on doing other things outside of the run-of-the-mill dialysis transports that are profitable. So a lot of times, like in the fall, spring, summer, fall, they're festivals. And so we make money off festivals. And it's exciting for the staff because it's free
concerts.
It's free
and
concerts, free food.
They're getting paid to go to the concert.
Exactly.
That's the best way.
Free food, and it's different, and they actually maybe get to use some skills outside of basic, just basic vitals and stuff that they probably haven't used since God knows when. So it's just something different, and it is profitable. So I'm just trying to open my eyes and open my mind to just things outside of dialysis. I know I don't want to do 911. I don't want to do that. But there are other things. So I'm looking to not work harder, but just work smarter.
Yeah. So have you gotten any pushback from people in the field coming up? One of the negatives I've heard coming through 911 and even non-emergency is they're more focused on getting paid, or they're always chasing the almighty dollar. And I've learned to say is like, I'm sorry, did you come to work for free today? But you don't, and just like me, I'm not hiding. We're a private company. We don't get paid. You don't get paid. I say that in the interviews when I get to hire somebody. Have you got any pushback from people, self-righteous kind of pushback of, well, good to the people. You focus too much on money.
Well, those people don't work here anymore. But, I try to seek understanding first. I don't ever want to be too, out of the loop. But I try to keep my trucks, because I've done everything that they've done. This is the other part. Like, okay, when I started the business, guess who was in the office? Guess who was on the truck? Guess who was, doing marketing? I've done it all. So it's like, I know what is too much on the truck. I know what's too little. Like, I feel like I have a good pulse on the realities of each role that is done. So I usually, like, a good place I like to be per, call volume wise per truck is around 7.
7 runs?
7 runs, which
honestly
is really low. Honestly, like on a 12-hour shift, I could do 10, really.
Yeah.
But, I think that 7 is fair. Now we do maybe sometimes throw in some doctor's appointments, but I'm always looking to make sure it's balanced. I don't want to have a crew that's coming in at 8 and they're only working, maybe 10 hours doing more work than the crew that's been here since 4 and that's working 12. So I try to keep all that stuff in mind. But at the end of the day, we are here to make money because, I don't get grants. I don't get the things that Grady may get or, so we have to, I try to remind them of that. But honestly, I think my staff knows that I don't want to burn them out. My goal is to make money and for them to make money and it to be a good.
Sometimes people are afraid to say no. Right? You're going to tell somebody if they work too much time. It's not because of overtime you don't want to pay them. It's like, no, I'm caring about you. I don't want you to burn out. So no, you can't have that shift.
No. Some people are, it's funny though. Some of those same people, they want to come to work, but they don't want to work at work. So I'm just like, okay, so you asked for the 5th day. Well, hello, like there's work to be done. I don't want to hear that you're tired. I mean, I'll take it into consideration, but no, like I definitely, but I try to keep in mind, like, different things. And again, I know that I feel like that's I don't want to say a drawback that I have, but I sometimes focus on them too much versus
I've been there.
And so I'm really trying to
both the positive and the negative, right? Focus too much on wanting to help them, also getting a little too angry over the little things, expecting too much out of them because you're angry with them. Yeah, I've been there.
So trying to find a good balance, but a lot of that it comes down to, you want people to work for you that take ownership in, your values and your mission. And so generally, like, that's where it comes from. Like, if somebody is just here to get paid, they're usually ones that don't want to work. Yeah. They want to come to work and go to sleep or, so I just kind of try to eliminate those people from the equation. And then, I mean, if we work, if you're doing however many runs, well, maybe you're doing 9 runs today. Okay, well, you'll have lunch. I'll pay for your lunch. Like, I do stuff like that, which maybe, so I try to, like I said, I just try to keep.
Man, I have a really hard time finding that line because, I mean, in your example, it's not that they ran the regular shifts, it's they're doing some extra. And somebody's asking me for extra, and I pay them well enough, I think.
Oh, yeah.
And we provide them with top gear and everything else. Where's that line? It's like, where's the balance? Is, we had an issue with our company trying to find somebody to work. We went down the whole list, and the manager who was doing it didn't tell anybody she was going to do this. She told me, but it's like, now I've got a little bonus gift card for whoever says yes. And cool. We didn't put it out front because that's the whole idea. We want you to step up because the reality is, it's here, and we're providing for you. So I do get a little mad when somebody said, "What's in it for me?" My instant pushback is like,
"You get paid?
You're not in the unemployment line." I mean, right. I never want to be that way because you're not. My whole statement is, I've been in that position where somebody told me you're lucky to have a job. I went, "No, I'm not."
No, yeah.
No, I mean, I was active paramedic then. I left the truck, was in an office. But I wore my boots. I rode a motorcycle. So I was like, no, I got my paramedic boots on. Right. I'll walk out and get on the truck today. I'm not fortunate.
And that's
You're not fortunate to have me either. It's a balance.
It is. And so just treating people like they're people, really. I mean, I think that's I always seek to understand. Like, I think that's a good place to start. So I have conversation all the time. I'm asking questions. I don't assume. Because I want to know where they're coming from, what their challenges are. And maybe there are things that they could, because I'm always like, okay, hey, this is your complaint or your pushback. What's your solution? What's the solution that you think would help? Because it's all about solutions and creativity and finding something that fits and that works. And so I'm always open to changing things around or, just finding a better way, essentially. But, it's ever evolving. It's ever changing.
Yeah.
So what might work pre-COVID, it definitely doesn't work now. So I don't know. The line is just, for me, of course, I'm going to be profitable. Like, I'm not going to have a crew just sitting.
Yeah.
So that's, I'm definitely going to be profitable. But at the same time, like, I want to make sure I'm fully understanding whatever it is that they are.
The needs of being met. And that's the weird balance. And before I get us off topic, I keep wanting to ask a question. This is a great conversation. Why should anybody come work for Pinnacle EMS?
Well, we invest in them as people. Well, I guess for starters with the basics, we take care of our units. We take care of our equipment. We have fun together. So it's not just all work. We like to play together. Prior to COVID, we would do like escape rooms. We would do going to do Top Golf. We would just have fun together. But now with COVID, things are a little different. But I want them to know that I invest in them as a human. Like, I want to know in the interview, what are your goals? Like, if it doesn't have anything to do with Pinnacle, I'm okay with that. I'm just happy that you have goals and
somewhere you want to go.
Yeah. And so, I really, and even if, it's blurred right now, like, I try to make it clear for them. Because I still have my own goals outside of Pinnacle that I'm setting out to do as well. So I just want people to not get complacent, and I want them to go after what their dreams are. I have several people, and I love it. My dispatcher right now, she is building out a food truck by herself, like very hands-on. That's one of her dreams. So I'm pushing her to do that. My old dispatcher, she was in school to become a massage therapist. And we still keep in contact. I'm encouraging her, like, hey, you need to file your LLC. You need to,
coaching and helping, yeah.
So, and then I have plenty of other people. My operations person, he's into tactical training and stuff like that. So he has a goal one day to kind of embark on his own kind of like guns training and, you know, other things like that. He's awesome. And I mean, there are many other stories. I have someone that's, you know, writing a thesis cause I think she's on track to become a doctor of psychology. There's just so many things. So I just want to see people flourish and grow and just not, cause I feel oftentimes you begin to hate work.
Yeah.
When you don't have anything else that you're reaching towards. And so I just always want to remind people like, hey, like, I know you have a life outside of work. What is it that you want to do? Maybe it's they want to buy a house, or I just want them to set the goals and get there. And if I can help them get there, I'll help them get there as well.
Yeah, you don't have to be an entrepreneur or somebody that's trying to start their own business. I had a job that wasn't going to go anywhere for me because I didn't want to be the owner of that company, which is ultimately, I mean, if you think about it in any company, what are your steps? What's your path to betterment? But what I realized is it paid really well, and the hours were super easy, and I became a rock star like that, which meant I worked 10-hour shifts, but I got my work done in 6.
Wow.
Which afforded me 4 hours to really start building my digital media empire, is what I call it, and work. And it allowed me to pay my bills, and it allowed me to take my wife on a vacation. It allowed me. So I found that balance in my mind of, well, I'm not going to go up, so let me go out and appreciate what I have now. And I try to do the same. But we've got, I'm thinking of a young lady we have right now who wants to be a PA. Yes. And I'm like, I love hearing that. One, you're gonna strive to do better, but two means I got you for a couple years, probably. But that, because she's a great employee, so I like hearing that. But even if we're placeholders for some people. Oh yeah. Right. I've got EMT students that are gonna be finishing up in December with A, and I tell everybody as soon as they start A, as soon as you get it, I'm going to put you part-time. You're out the door because you didn't spend that time. Because I could be like, man, I'll give you a raise, whatever I can do to keep you. But it's like, no, you didn't spend that time and money in your life to not use your skills. Absolutely. So we don't even do festivals. Right now, somebody come in for a festival, I'm like, yeah, it's not on my radar. I'm balancing, we're running tight. Right. I'm balancing everything right now. So I don't have an opportunity for them to use their skills somewhere else. So all right, we're going to run, not long, but I like to keep it respectful of time. Okay, so I got one more question, then we'll go to the last 4. I always ask the same questions so far on these interviews. But you talked about coming up through all the different things. The first time you had to fire somebody, how did that go for you, and what did you learn from it?
Well, it's never a fun thing to do. But how did it go for me?
Like building up to it. Did you waffle? Did you give them too many chances?
I did.
Okay.
I usually.
So I did the same thing. So I kind of figured that might be where you came from.
Because it's very. I mean, you get the red flag almost.
Yeah, people tell you who they are. Yeah, they really do.
Sometimes in an interview, sometimes I mean, it's very clear. It's in your face. But I think I'll say that it all. Not that it all falls back on me, but most of the people that I've had to let go, I saw it early on. I should have just, within that 90-day period.
Right. So tough to not trust yourself.
Yeah. But now, I mean, so that's what I've learned. Trust my gut. If someone, and don't hire out of desperation. Do not hire out of desperation.
There's the quote for the show right there.
Do not hire out of desperation. But so, yeah, it was, difficult because this person in particular, I like them as a person. I still talk to them. But they were being very, I can't even find a good word, but
they weren't the right fit.
They were not. They were just doing things that were jeopardizing my image, jeopardizing just it was just bad. And so it got me cut from, I used to do, I thank God we're back doing calls for Cancer Treatment Center. But so this was way back when I first got started. We were doing a lot of calls for them, and those calls would normally be same day cash paying patients, which was awesome back then. I mean, it's awesome now, but you don't have to wait the 2 weeks for Medicare to pay. So I would rely on that a lot back then. And so I got a call from the head of security or whoever it was, and they were like, this person is trash. They were like pissed at this particular person just because of the way that they were carrying on. Just bad all the way around customer service. So,
and not to get into details, but I'm assuming you're talking about how they talk to the patient, how they talk to their partner with people around, just not using appropriate language or attitude
on their
or
phone.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just bad all the way around. And so the person was very apologetic, but I'm just like, I have to let you go. And it was understood. It wasn't, I mean, it was very clear of why. But it, it hurt my feelings a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's just a part of, running a business. My image, my reputation, all that stuff is how I make money for my family. So I'm just like, I don't care about hurting your feelings. Like if it comes down to now I don't have a partnership with this hospital anymore that was putting food on my table.
Yeah.
Have a great life. Like,
yeah.
So, it was hard, but it was necessary. And so that's usually.
And were you seeing the red flags coming up?
Yeah, absolutely. So. And I didn't address it with force. I would mention it. I would bring it up, would talk about it, but it wasn't with force, and it wasn't with you're not going to have a job tomorrow if you keep it up type deal. So, but the way that it played out was, how it played out, it allowed for me to basically immediately be able to fire that person without having a whole long paper trail per se.
Yeah, I gotcha. And it's Georgia. I mean, it's the right to hire, right to fire, but it's never a good position.
Yeah, it's not.
And I always like to admit my own mistakes, and I talk about it probably too much, but it does sound like you learned that your mistake there was you saw it, you didn't address it earlier. And I'm sitting there thinking about a situation I have with an employee right now, like how can I fix the attitude problem? How can I fix every time I see something from this person, I get angry. And I try to say I don't care, but that's not true. If I didn't care, I wouldn't get angry. Like I'm going to either they'll do their job, they won't. Right. But I get angry, so I care. So everything is a lesson. Everything is inspirational, and it's not easy. And that's what some employees. I know I didn't. The first time I got fired, I'm not gonna tell the story right now, but it's such a dumb, long story. I was such a dumb 18-year-old, and I mean, it was that situation of now you jeopardize the company and the image, and they can sue us. So have a nice life, man. Yeah. And I was mad, and I blamed them, and I even told myself stories about, well, no, they did it because the lawyer said that wasn't true. It's my behavior. Yeah, and later I figured that out.
And I think that, like I said, I still talk to this person in particular. They're so much better now. Like, not necessarily because I fired them, but I think they actually did learn a lesson.
They needed that change.
That experience. Yeah. And even I think a lot of it just comes down to, are they even in the right field? A lot of maybe this person in particular, maybe this is just not something that is a good fit for them. Maybe, they need to embark on their own self-discovery of what it is that they want to do and be and what's their next step in life. Maybe because a lot of times it just boils down to they're just not happy at work. It's not your job to make them happy. Right. But,
it makes life easier if you can.
It does.
And if you can't, then there's the problem. Man, I'm definitely going to have her back. With more time. This was the introductory one about where you came from. But I wanted that topic of right place, wrong time. And that idea in careers and how we do that. That's good. We could we should cut and just talk for another hour after we film the next one.
Man, that's a good one.
It's so much. But the last four, I like to do this with everybody. What do you love about EMS?
I would have to go back to the tangible, visible change.
Give me a good story on that.
Well, so, there are plenty, but, a patient in particular, he's passed away. He just recently passed away, but his wife, they came to us basically kind of, well, I mean, for most of our patients that, I'm speaking of a dialysis patient, usually hits them out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe they were already on dialysis and now maybe they had a stroke and now they need a stretcher.
Yeah.
But usually whenever that time comes, it changes everybody's life around them as well. And so, this patient's wife, who is so sweet, I think they were married for probably like 50 plus years. She was so stressed out and she's like, oh my God, he has this appointment. He has this, he has that, he has paint, like just so many appointments. And she was so overwhelmed. She would cry on the phone. Every time I talked to her, she would cry. And by the time we were able to, hang up, she would just be like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Cause my job also is relieving stress from family members. I'm finding that that's another vein. From a owner side,
mm-hmm.
That's something that I take pride in. So, I love being able to, find a problem, fix a problem regarding, just their stress issue that the family now has. Now, he needs a hospital bed. He needs, many thousands of things. They might need a nurse now. It's just all these things are thrown at them. They don't know what to do. And so oftentimes, even with my existing patients, maybe something new has happened. Who are they calling? They're calling me. They don't want to know or hear about what the case manager said at the hospital. They're like, what should we do? And so I'm learning that I need to become more resourceful, have more people in my Rolodex, and companies that are, so that's what I like from where I sit right now, with it, like just being able to impact, a positive change, at least for the moment. Now it's sad because generally, like I know this is, I won't say the end of their life, but usually by the time they get to me, they're not going to be here much longer, unfortunately. Yeah. So I really get to talk to their families about, just making sure you spend quality time. And, a lot of times it's coaching them through, okay, my daddy is in the hospital. Can you come here and sit with me? And like just coaching them through, okay, he's about to pass away. Sometimes the family cannot see it, even though it's really clear. It's something they don't want to accept. And so just kind of being a person that they trust already, and just helping them to, for lack of better terms, like let go of what they can't control anymore. And so that part is rewarding for me.
That's awesome. Yeah. In your career through EMS so far, what's a change you've seen that needed to happen and was probably a long time coming?
A change that, in Georgia, I'll say, so back when I got started, we would have to have a basic, we can have 2 basics on the truck.
It's true. That is true. And
so we all know that there's an EMS shortage, definitely here in Atlanta.
Everywhere, right?
And it, there are 10,000 bazillion trillion private services. So people, that's a whole nother story, but so it was such a relief being able to put 2 Bs on the truck. That was a change that needed to happen just to answer the needs of, the community, really. Yeah. There was no real, especially in the non-emergency world. I'm like, why do...
Yeah, that's what we're always saying.
Yeah.
This is 99... Actually, no, I say 100% of the time with dialysis, it's basic EMS.
It is.
It is vital signs, and that's it.
Yep.
I know we do more, but it's what happens to the code? CPR.
Yeah.
Compressions are the number one thing with code. So that's basic all day long. That's so basic civilians do it.
Right, exactly.
Type of deal. So,
exactly.
Yeah, that was a much needed change.
Yeah, and I'm very excited about the EMR.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Super excited. So those are definite, real, excellent changes that have happened in our coming. So,
what's something you're struggling with that that you want to overcome or that you need to solve? Everybody says shortages. You don't get to do that.
I'm not going to say that because that's an obvious.
Yeah.
Complete.
Because it is. Everybody's struggling with lack of people.
I would say this is a personal. Well, I guess you're asking me, so it is personal. But systems and protocols. Okay. I have them. My company runs above surface very well. But again, like, people need precise direction of how to do a precise task. For the most part, I would like to be able to, if I hire somebody new for a dispatching role, they should be able to open a book and be able to get to work. I mean, of course, they would need training.
Sure.
But, it should be that clear. And it's not right now. And so what that does to me is make my life more stressful because now, I get calls for things that I shouldn't get calls for. No shade to my office people or to anybody that works for me. It's my fault. And so I need to have a better, not necessarily training, but yeah, I guess training for each role. And so I'm building that out now. It's so exciting because I love stuff like this. But literally, like I took this course recently and they said that, they were given a task to, be told or tell someone how to make a peanut butter jelly sandwich. And nobody could do it because they weren't able to give direction well.
Yeah, okay.
I think they were like, okay, put the peanut butter on the bread. And so the person put the jar of peanut butter on the bread. So, it's just, something that I just think would make my life better as an owner. And it would make my business run a little bit more smoothly.
And now with you. I always forget who the motivational speaker was that said it, but they said, if you're not getting the results you want with how you communicate, you got to change the way you communicate.
Absolutely.
Which feels counterintuitive to what we do, which is, this makes sense to me. Right. I told you go do it. And it's not that way.
Yeah, it's not. And so every time I find myself getting upset, I'm like, but Tiffany, your directions were not explicit. Like they were not.
Yeah.
You understand what you're expecting, but maybe. And so every time I kind of, again, self-assess, it falls back on me. I mean, it does.
But you say you love that. You love realizing that and then making the systems.
Absolutely. So I'm like knee deep in it right now.
Man, I need you on my team. I love being the visionary. I love going, hey, we're going to do here, being the inspiration guy. See, my partner, Brian, he knows the business. He's built them from the ground up. He's got the money. He's done all the entrepreneur stuff and he has vision. But I love being that where we work together is I get his vision and then I communicate it so well. And it's like, I love being that inspirational guy. I need that person that's like, and here's this step by step how you get to the vision. Right. So, maybe he'll offer you $10 million for coming and you'll come work for it.
Take it.
So at the end of the day, this is the voice of EMS. This is the media outlet of One EMS. Well, One EMS is mission. Our mission is to unify everybody, to bring us together from the boots on the ground to the senators at the top of Georgia and beyond and everything in between and find those disconnects, stop complaining about them and connect them up. And so we're doing it by one platform, one EMS, one voice. With that being said, what's something that One EMS could help bring to light for you that would make your life better?
Good question. I hate to say this. I will not say it. Let me find something else. Well, I can kind of speak on it. There are a lot of companies in Georgia, in Atlanta, that are, everybody thinks they want to start a non-emergency ambulance service. And our state directors, they do a great job of getting us all, you know, checked off and all these things. But I feel that the quality of the agencies that are, you know, just coming out, they bring the quality of the non-emergency dialysis sector way down. So not necessarily for Pinnacle, what I would say, just for us private agency owners that focus primarily on dialysis, it would just be awesome if it could, I mean, this has nothing to do with the state per se. I mean, it kind of does, but I mean, I see people in pajamas getting out of ambulances. I'm so serious. I see people in pajamas. I've seen companies with no one in the back, just somebody in the front, just one.
Which is against regulations.
Absolutely.
That's part of regulations. You have to be caught.
Right. And I'm not the whistle blowing type per se. Sure. And I don't even know how that would change. Outside of whistleblowing. But my hope would be that we can all be held to a very high standard of what we should be able to provide to our staff, even, let alone our patients in our community. But a lot of people that I've hired in the past, they're like, oh my gosh, like, you have equipment that works? Your trucks, they don't have lights on in the dash?
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy the stuff that I'm like, what? Like, and I know, like, I've come from my 1997 Ford, like, so, but even back then, like, I was on my maintenance as much as I could be.
Right.
But like a lot of I would say other services in our area, just, they don't have that same, standard that they strive to meet. And so it just brings the whole sector way down, and it's embarrassing sometimes, and it's not even, I mean, it has nothing to do. Yeah. Right. But it's just
But at a certain point, all ambulances are the one ambulance.
Absolutely.
You know, they just see lights, they see the truck, like, oh man.
It's not an emergency company, and they're, yeah.
And that's why I have these conversations, is the more we can put stuff out, because that's one of the goals of One EMS is to shine a light on when things are wrong, but also here's how we can help you fix it.
Right.
And because at the end of the day, it's not just about the regulations, because we can't just look at one person. I think it's been a problem with EMS personally, is we go, well, the state's not doing enough.
No.
Okay, what would you, and actually I got called out in a state meeting here recently about the EMR program, because somebody's going to, that's going to be, and I was like, so what's your solution?
Right.
Sure. And the moderator privately was like, hey, don't be antagonistic. I'm like, no, asking questions is what I do. Right. Secondly, I'm not trying to start a problem, and I will respect your wishes because this is your meeting. But that's BS, man.
It is.
He's running his mouth angrily, shaking his fist. But I'll ask him what he would do differently.
Absolutely.
That's
a very...
but that's the problem, is we look at one place. Well, it's not... Yes, the state has to do a lot of stuff, and the OEMS, the Office of EMS has to do a lot of stuff. But it comes down to, at the end of the day...
It does.
When we get on a truck, whether we're in a company or not, when we get on a truck, what we do that day matters. And to some people, it doesn't. And that's where I'd like to try to change that stuff. Yeah, I mean, I just want to talk to you, but I got to wrap it. I got to stop. We're going to have her back. We're going to have Tiffany back on. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff. One day I'll hit the lottery and just buy you out, and then you come work on my team. It'd be awesome.
I love that.
But at the end of the day, we are One EMS.